This is ridiculous. At first I saw this, I wanted to immediately jump into the blaze, but Bree had me wait, and oh, am I glad I did. I wasn't going to say anything about the Olympics initially because, there hasn't been a worldwide Olympic celebration in my time for a couple hundred years. But this one, I was shocked by the iconography. There were drag performers doing the Last Supper skit, there was a pale horse of death in the river Seine, there was a performance by Gojira featuring Marie Antoinette, and why the hell is all of this a problem for some reason? First of all, the Last Supper refers to a story of Christian mythology where, prior to his execution by Roman soldiers, Jesus, which is a transliteration of the Hebrew Yeshua, held a feast for his followers. Its symbolism was most famously iconized by Leonardo da Vinci, whose paintings of Yeshua were actually thought to be modeled after either Cesare Borgia or da Vinci's boyfriend. According to some sources, those possible interpretations are one and the same. And according to modern Christians, this was abhorrent because the performance was put on by a drag group in France. You know, the birth country of the cabaret? However, this Last Supper wasn't. The iconography used was more closely representative of the feast of Dionysus, or Bacchanal. Bacchanal or Bacchanalia were privately funded Roman festivals held in honor of the deity of Greek mythology, Dionysus, or as the Romans called him, Bacchus. This practice would have come to Rome sometime in 200 BCE and merged with the native Roman cult of Liber. Liber was a native Roman deity often called the Free One or the Free Father, Liber Pater. He was a god of viticulture and wine, male fertility and freedom. The festival of Liberalia became associated with free speech and the rites attached to coming of age. Kind of fitting to start an Olympic event. Next up is this pale horse of death. In Christian mythology, this refers to one of the four figures from the Book of Revelation. This piece of apocalyptic literature was credited to John of Patmos, who wrote the story after being banished to Patmos under the Roman rule of Domitian at some point in the 1st century Common Era. The horses are associated with Zelos, Martius, Lemos, and Thanatos. Conquest, war, famine, and death. Thanatos is a god from Greek mythology, the son of Nyx, goddess of the night, and the brother of Hypnos, god of sleep. His job is much akin to what we'd see as a Grim Reaper, in that he appeared to humans to carry them off to the underworld, Hades, when the time allotted to them by the fates, Lachesis, Colotho, and Atropos, had expired. However, this was Sicana, a goddess of Gallo-Roman origin. Sicana is the goddess of the river Seine, the river in which the horse rode during the opening ceremony. Sicana is most commonly associated with the Gaulish tribe of Sicani, and her cult maintained a temple northwest of Dijon in Burgundy. This is where a healing center was established in the 2nd or 1st century before Common Era. Most dedications made to Sicana at her temple were put into a large pot inscribed with her name and filled with bronze and silver models of body parts that her followers wanted her to cure. Some were even wood or stone and included representations of limbs, internal organs, or even entire bodies. Pilgrims were often depicted in art as carrying offerings to the goddess, including money, fruit, pet dogs, and birds. In later years, Romans took over the sanctuary and built 2 temples in its place, centered on the spring and the pool. Next, we had a depiction of Marie Antoinette. I'm not sure if people were just whipped up into a frenzy off the last 2 incorrectly identified icons, or if it was just some pearl clutching over the gruesome history of the French Rebellion. Marie Antoinette was the last queen consort of France prior to the French Revolution and the wife of King Louis XVI. Marie's time as queen was marked by severe political backlash and gossip. Several French tabloids at the time published political cartoons and stories about her perceived wasteful spending, promiscuity, illegitimate children, and more. Historical sources indicate that she was wrongly accused of trying to defraud the crown jewelers in France by refusing to pay for a diamond necklace. The incident was called the Affair of the Diamond Necklace, and it was one of the most significant historical events in France that led to the disillusionment with the French monarchy and helped spark the French Revolution. Probably not the most comfortable imagery for people in power while people across the globe are fighting for equality and rolling up proverbial guillotines on social media. Early on the 16th of October, Marie Antoinette was declared guilty of 3 main charges against her: depletion of the national treasury, conspiracy against the internal and external security of the state, and high treason because of her intelligence activities in the interest of the enemy. The latter charge alone was enough to condemn her. She was executed by guillotine the same day, and her last words apparently were, Pardon me, sir. I did not do it on purpose. Right. It didn't end with the opening ceremony, though. This golden calf was next on the list of horrible things. Again, coming out of Abrahamic myths, according to the Torah and the Quran, the golden calf was a cult image made by the Israelites when Moses went up to Mount Sinai. According to biblical stories, Moses was gone up the mountain for over a month, and many assumed he would never return. It's speculated by some that the golden calf was an offering to Apis, an Egyptian sacred bull, and the son of the Egyptian goddess Hathor, whose powers reigned over the sky, women, fertility, and love. Hathor's cult of worship originated in the early dynastic times, 3000 BCE. This statue, however, is called Taureau et Dame, or simply Bull and Deer, and was made by French sculptor Paul Jouve in 1930. He was most known during his life for his paintings and sculptures of animals he saw on expeditions to the African continent during his life. This statue stands in the Jardins du Trocadero in Paris. Once the garden of the Trocadero Palace, and later the gardens as it exists in the present day, was designed for the International Expedition of Art and Technology in Modern Life in the year 1937. And I'll be perfectly honest, I think the symbolism of the Nike of Samothrace was a wonderful way to close out the Olympics this year. Though some people just saw a beheaded angel with no arms, the Nike of Samothrace predates Christianity itself by at least 100 years. First sculpted in Greece, 190 BCE, the statue was found by Charles Champozeau in 1893 during an exploration of the ruins of the Sanctuary of the Great Gods on the island of Samothrace. Champozeau recognized the Greek goddess of victory called Nike. Yes, like the shoes. In Greek literature, Nike is described as both an attribute and attendant of the gods Zeus and Athena, and was thought to be one of the first of the Olympian gods to offer allegiance to Zeus during the Titan Wars, after which Zeus beat his father Cronus and ascended to the top of Olympus. In Athens, Nike is considered a servant of Athena, the Greek goddess of heroics, wisdom, warfare, and handicraft. Athenians merged the two goddesses and made Nike into an aspect of Athena, and this has contributed greatly to the goddess's ambiguity, such that Hesiod's theology claims Nike to be a daughter of Styx and Pallas, while Homer's hymns describe Ares, the god of war, as being Nike's father. Since 1884, Greece has been seeking the return of the Nike of Samothrace. That's almost 140 years as the making of this video. I think it's time, France. Give the statue back, France. Greece wants the statue, France! So, all in all, were these anti-Christian imagery? Well, they weren't Christian imagery to begin with. But if there's one thing I've learned from ancient cultures, a lot of Christians have seen ancient symbols from religions and spiritualities outside of their own as anti-Christian, when, in all reality, it's just art from other cultures from the past. Cultures that inspired a lot of Christian authors who would have grown up around these symbols and written stories about them. Keep in mind that a good chunk of the King James Version of the Bible was written in the 1600s and based heavily on works by witch hunter and, to his contemporaries, religious psychopath Heinrich Kramer. But I guess, if you feed a flame, it keeps on burning, and you guys know how much I love fires. Art for this channel wouldn't even be possible, however, without the help of our patrons. Monetization on YouTube is not enough to keep us going, so please follow the Patreon link down in the description to help Tales of Atonement keep going long term. We have a lot left to do and a big story to tell, and we simply can't do it without your help. Besides, there's a ton of extras only available on Patreon that won't be available for months on YouTube, if ever. Some of our great patrons include Pammy Poo, Shadow Fox, Arya Gamari, Charles Tam, Jace Moreland, and Lunder Lumen. Thank you all for watching and supporting our story.